Hey guys, I want to welcome you and let you know how great it is to have you here for the Greater Purpose Podcast.
What's up? That's how they have to. Welcome to the Greater Purpose Podcast, right here from the Cubs room, and the cheering crowd in the background and all that good stuff, right? Yep. So here we are for another podcast. Sorry, I'm adjusting the bobblehead. We'll talk about him in a minute. He's like in the picture a little bit better than you. There you go. He's like, usually it's just his head, so I don't know what happened. He got taller on us or something. But anyway, so here we are for another podcast. So glad to be here. We're going to introduce our guest in just a minute, but we do want to introduce the empty chair. See it? There it is. Travis says there's nobody in the chair. You see
Where's
anybody?
the producer?
Yeah. Do you even know the producer's name?
Steve, Gary, something like that, right?
That's right. Yeah. So he's out there floating around somewhere. But anyway, no. Honestly, Steven's a great guy. He's very supportive. We like to kid around, so I hope everybody knows that. We love Steven. But anyway, on to the due diligence, so I don't get in trouble by the producer who's not here, or by my executive producer. You know who my executive producer is? My wife.
Oh,
Donna.
Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That you should know, right?
Yeah.
Executive producer. So she's watching the podcast. She's critiquing them, letting me know what works and what doesn't work. And some of the things she thinks doesn't work, I still do anyway. But she's helped out a lot, so we appreciate that. So first of all, we want to make sure here it is. I moved stuff around, so that's a bad thing. Make sure you go to www.bwasap.com. Say that 10 times fast. You can get to everything from there. You can get to the podcast. You can get to Mr. Bill's photography. You can get to Mr. Bill's STEM, Bill Ward photography. See, I don't even know what I do. So. But anyway, so you can get to all that. That's the shameless plug for my business. And then we've also been plugging. I'm supposed to set that right there. What you guys don't know is happening right now is it's going to cut off. Watch this. And then I'll have to go back to it. I forgot to put it on. So we're back. I'm going to do that. I'm going to just splice those two together. Usually I splice it out and pretend like nothing happened, but we're going to go ahead.
No one will ever know.
I'm supposed to put the camera, which is my phone, on airplane mode so that it doesn't cut out, but I failed to do that. So with our executive guest here, I apologize for that.
Technical difficulties.
We're having fun, all right? So we're still plugging Revelation Unlocked by Pastor Shannon Williams. So it's a great book, a good study book. He was in here, gave us a little bit of review. You may want to go back and listen to that, but get the book. You can get it on Amazon. He's a great, good pastor, good leader, and a good godly man. So if you'll pick that up, that would be wonderful. And I think I covered it all. Look at that. Oh, wait, I got to introduce the guest. And we have our guest today is the distinguished. Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway,
maybe
our Gaston County District Attorney, Travis Page.
Yes, sir.
So glad to have you here, my
Bill.
brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be on.
It's good to have you here. And you get to tell them. I just told them who you were, but you get to tell them a little bit more about who you are.
Awesome. So happy to be here with you, Bill. Love the podcast. Love what you're doing for the men's ministry here in Gaston County. Especially with the No Agenda Breakfast. We look forward to that once a month. And so hopefully some of your viewers can come out and join us for the No Agenda Breakfast. But so anyways, I'm your district attorney here in Gaston County. I've been DA since 2021. I grew up in Cherryville. Depends on who you ask.
How did you get that wrong from there?
I actually, when I was in college at Appalachian, I had someone tell me I wasn't from there because I pronounced the Y.
Oh, really?
And and here I was trying to sound all prim and proper, you know?
Right.
And pronounce the Y and enunciate and all that good stuff. And then sure enough, I got called on it day one. And so that was in an English class, no less. And so they put me on the spot, but no, I grew up in Cherryville, attended the First Wesleyan Church in Cherryville growing up. And so I grew up with a Wesleyan background. my dad worked in the mills, textile mills. My mom, she was an administrative assistant for Carolina Freight for a long time
cool.
until they went under.
Yeah.
And then she now works for the Gaston County Police. She's been administrative assistant to, I think, 3 chiefs now.
Yeah.
So,
well, you're like 21, so she's like what, 40 something?
oh yeah. So actually, next year I turned 40.
No way!
Yeah,
Really?
the big 40.
I knew you
So
were 21, but I
only
Wow.
only a few more months left.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
39.
just a couple years behind me.
So, and born in 1984. I'm not going to respond to that.
He knows how old I am, right?
But no. So I went off to college. I went to Appalachian. I was a 4th generation student at App. I had some uncles that went there, grandparents or grandma, and then a great grandma that went way back when it was a teacher's college. And so, but anyways, I went to App for undergrad, studied poli-sci, knew I wanted to go to law school, and then went to Carolina for law school, Chapel Hill.
So I knew it.
Yeah,
Everybody comes through here has been Carolina.
I'm a Mountaineer, but I'm also a Tar Heel, and when they played in a few weeks, I'll have some divided loyalties.
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah, so, that's how does that go? How do you do that?
So I started out pulling. I decided I was going to pull for the home team.
Sure.
And so
okay.
I went to the game in Chapel Hill a few years back that Carolina lost, and there were some Carolina fans there. I was with some buddies from App actually.
Oh wow!
And so we were needling each other. But then
this isn't your sports story, right?
No.
Oh, good.
No.
Yeah, okay.
But anyways, there were some fans, some Carolina fans that were being rude to my App guys. And so here I am in Carolina gear. And so I decided I'm just going to start pulling for App.
Yeah.
They're my school too.
Right.
So
while you're wearing your
while I was wearing Carolina gear, I mean, the people behind me, but
that's awesome.
We did it just to kind of to spite them a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. I diverted your rabbit trail.
No, you're good. But so I'm married. I live in Belmont with my wife, Melissa, and we have 2 kids, Maddie and Huck. And Maddie just started 1st grade, and Huck's still in preschool. So they're wild as can be.
A lot of years ahead.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of years ahead.
A lot of good times.
Yeah.
So
cool. Great. All right. So that's who you are. But tell us when did you first recognize, when did you first realize, when did you first think about, and was it a progressive thing? I need to be the man that God wants me to be.
Yeah. So I was really fortunate. I grew up in a house that, believed in going to church and believed in God and loved the Lord. And we'd go to church at First Wesleyan in Cherryville. We'd go to my grandparents, either on my dad's side or my mom's side, for Sunday dinner after church. And we'd talk, church gossip. Yep. Heaven forbid. But we'd talk about what happened at church, and we'd talk politics and things like that. But and so I had some really good influences growing up. Mm-hmm. But you never really think of yourself as an adult. I still, in many ways, still see myself as a kid at heart.
That's the first time I've heard anybody say that, and I think it all the time. And I'm like, dude, I'm 60 years old, and I still feel like I'm the kid in the room.
Exactly. Right? And so I'll play video games with my kids and all that. But so I lost my dad. I've talked with you about it before. I lost my dad to cancer back in 2010, and so it was kind of a combination of that, losing him, and then also becoming a father myself. When I started to think, it's going to be up to me to educate my kids, to raise them, to bring them up the way that I was, and to kind of put them on the right path. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be there the entire way or their entire journey down the path, but hopefully I can at least give them the tools that they need, the ones that my dad and my grandpa and folks gave to me, and really trusting in the Lord and following God's will more than anything. But really, I think that was probably those, that 6-7 year period is when it kind of just started to evolve and really start thinking about your not necessarily, well, I guess you could say your legacy, what you want your kids
to legacy all the time.
What you want your kids to remember you as, or the person that they'll see you as, or when they think back and when they talk to their grandkids about their dad, then what they'll tell them.
Right. So, and that's what you're going to give us some of that in just a minute. But we talk about legacy all the time because I had a good friend of mine. Hope he's watching. I'm not going to say his name. This is not an insult. but he said something about the monetary legacy that I was going to leave behind for my
Right.
kids. And I was like, well, that's not what I consider to be a legacy. My legacy is the spiritual, religious, aspect that I leave behind. That's my legacy.
Right.
Who I am, the character that I leave, that impression.
Right.
That's more of a legacy to me than the money. They can do without the money, or they'll probably make more money than I ever did.
Yeah.
So
There's a good Methodist hymn that Senator Overcash, I've seen him share, How Firm a Foundation.
Yes.
The foundation that you're going to leave, build for your kids.
Absolutely.
And I think that's more than anything.
Sure.
You want that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in that process, probably your dad, I'm going to assume, was inspirational to you. And so you said he passed away in 2010. So if there, who that was an inspiration to, but who else would you mention as inspiration?
So dad obviously was a huge influence, and he's kind of one of my five, but I had a conversation not too long ago with my mom and my brother, and the question was presented, and I asked the question. I said, of all the men or all the people that you've met in this world, who is the most Christ-like? Who would you say is the most Christ-like person that you've ever met?
Wow.
And the three of us, we all responded. My mom's dad, my grandfather, Ben Blackburn, and he was the son of a holiness preacher up in Todd, North Carolina.
Yep.
They've still got the Blackburn Tabernacle up there, not far from our old home place. And but when it comes just righteous, doing the right thing, thinking the right way,
right,
and living a good moral life, but also being really merciful and really slow to judge other folks, and then always with a kind, charitable heart and a tender heart. One of the most tender hearts. He's got a curly mustache. That's been his trademark around the Wesleyan Church for years in Cherryville. Cool. And in fact, in one Easter production, and I think it kind of bothered him a little bit, but he was asked to play the part of the devil. And I think it was because of the mustache. But no, he, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, there was one place where I wanted to be at.
Your dad's dad.
And no, this is my mom's dad.
Mom's dad.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And so there was one place I wanted to be, and I wanted to be down at their house, and I wanted to pray with my grandpa and my grandma. And this is my mom's dad.
Yeah.
So, I've always felt like he and my grandmother had a direct line to Heavenly Father.
Yeah. I know some people like that.
But no, just very kind-hearted and always a fan of the underdog.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so I love that about him. But
that's where you get your characteristics.
I hope so.
I know some of the things that you do to look out for the underdog.
Yeah,
it's important. It's in society. I mean, not talking about sports and stuff, that too, but in society, looking
probably one of the best compliments, or two good compliments I could get, that I remind people of either my dad or my grandpa.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
So, but yeah, I would say my grandfather, and we would we'd watch actually PTL back in the day when I'd be down there at their house. And
Donna's going to love that.
Yeah. But we would watch PTL and we'd pray right there in the living room there in Cherryville, and while we were watching that. But of course, then we would we'd keep it on CBS and watch Price is Right later on. Rest in peace, Bob Barker.
Right.
So
yeah, there you go. Cool.
But
so that's cool. All right. Yep. Very good. So your grandfather, your mom's dad.
My mom's dad.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So I know some of these answers, partial answers. How do you feel like you're most effective in taking that path that God's leading you down and implementing it in other? I know you implemented in other people's lives in general, but specifically in men, so they know, hey, this is the godly walk you need to walk.
So, I try to set an example in what I do. I feel like I've always felt actions are more appropriate than speech. Yeah. And it's ironic. The lawyer comes on here and he's, great at talking and all that. But,
I get it. Yeah.
But I'd rather act it and do. Yeah. And I feel like we're commanded to do that. And And so I try to set an example in how I carry myself, how, even going through losing my dad, I had some friends talk about, how I handled that. And I said, look, it was an opportunity to minister to folks.
Right.
And so this is how, I believe that I can see my dad again in heaven. Also, there's a peace and comfort today as I walk this earth because of the Lord. But no, so I try to set an example. I try to lead by actions, lead by example. I also feel like it's really important for folks to listen, to listen to the struggles that men are going through.
Absolutely.
And, more than anything, listen.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk through some of the issues that we're going through and dealing with. And sometimes we just need to vent and get things out. But also just to know that I care. I think being compassionate to folks and empathetic.
Yeah, people can tell.
And so caring about people, that's one of the three things I tell people in my office that and what we do. There's three things like the people should never question about what we do. And one, the very first thing is whether we care.
Right.
So people need to know that we care. And then we also want to work hard and act with integrity. But I think just taking an interest in another man's life and letting them know that there is someone that they can call on as a friend and be there. That opens the door to so many other opportunities to minister. And even the folks that I prosecute in court, I'll give you an example. We have folks that come in and it's their first time breaking the law. And we have a deferred prosecution program. We want these people to succeed and never be back in the courthouse again.
Right.
And so I make it a point with their lawyer present to always talk to them and tell them, hey, this is a really good opportunity. I'm really pulling for you to succeed and do well. And you want things to work out for the best.
Sure.
And so, and I think hearing that from someone who's tasked with throwing them away and
that's what they think.
Persecute them.
Right.
And so changing that misconception a lot of times.
That's great.
So,
and I've heard that a lot. That I think was probably one of the first things that struck me about you and what I heard behind the scenes, the gossip, because the gossip sometimes is really good.
Right.
I'm not sure that defines gossip or not, but the things that you hear about the programs you're interested in, things that you want the department to do is really important. And I know you're working with some of these other guys and I know their character as well. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat stuff. Yeah. So, and there is a difference between prosecute and persecute. Right?
There is.
They think they're being persecuted. But they're only being prosecuted.
That's correct.
You don't want to be persecuting while you're prosecuting.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. That's cool. So you're differentiating. Good deal. Good. Okay. Now we come to this part that is not called the Fast Five. Let's see, I did that just for my executive producer.
Redundant.
Yeah, because you'll see up there it says Fast Five.
It's the five faves.
It's five. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, I crossed it out up there. Yeah. I got to write that up there. See, that's right. The producer was here. He didn't do that last time. So it's the five faves, and I can't say five faves because I said it too fast, and she said she didn't know what I was saying. Five favorites. This is the five favorites where he's going to tell us of multiple categories his five favorites. Now, what we've had all kinds of things. We've had five from one category, and then we've had one from each category. And Paul Brentley did five from each category. You don't have to do that. But I think
that was probably a 5-hour podcast.
Part of that was back when we were rushing this along a little bit.
Gotcha.
And that's my fault. I was trying to keep it within a time frame, and it's expanded a little bit. So, which I apologize to our early guests because we got to have them back on to do their extra 10 or 15 minutes. But so he rattled them off real quick. So it was. Don't be too impressed.
All right.
But it's pretty cool. You should go back and see that because he did all that stuff. But you are going to mix yours up. So your five favorites are. All
right. So five favorites. My mom, one of the persons that inspire me.
Yep.
So I could talk about her. Mom always had a reputation of wearing a smile on her face, no matter what the circumstance, for being really kind-hearted. I can remember days where she'd take us to school and she'd see someone on a rainy day walking to school and pick them up or give them a ride to school. She's always had a servant's heart, be it at her job or being at church, wherever. She was the one before my dad was saved that really kept my brother and I in church, made sure that we were in choir and going to church and receiving a proper Christian education in addition to that at school. But then also what's inspirational is how she's continued on after the passing of my father. And she still wears that smile. And she works at the county police. She has a tough job, but she still manages to smile and be a source of support for myself and for my family. And she's a pretty good grandmother too.
That's cool.
So
awesome. Very nice. All right.
So there's one
category, inspirational person.
So another one
inspirational
is actually a father-in-law, Lynn Stefaniak. And so I lost my dad at an early age. I was 26. And so Dad and I, we played basketball together, but, and I learned how to maintain a yard. I mowed grass and did a lot of that stuff around the house. And so he taught me that. But as far as, the handy things about drilling a screw or all the little handy things that a husband and a father needs to know around the house.
Yeah, supposed to do.
Yeah, supposed to do.
My wife thinks I can do any of that stuff until I mess it up. And then
so he's taken me under his wing like his own son and treated me that way. I've never felt anything other than that in first class by him. Oh. And we've played golf a little bit. Tried not to beat him too bad playing golf because you don't want to anger your father-in-law. But but he's helped fill that void in my life. Nice. And he's a heck of a father, husband, and a saint of a human being. But he for taking the time to teach me the things that he knows, and the things that he knows are just awesome. Electrical work, plumbing work. He knows a little bit about everything, and so he's a little inspirational there. But professionally, there are two lawyers that I've worked with that are at their core just outstanding, fine men. And the first one's my very first boss as a lawyer, Colin Willoughby. He's the longtime district attorney, or was, up in Wake County in Raleigh. He was there for 28 years.
Wow.
And I think he only had an opponent a few times, but what I loved about Colin, like, he was a good Christian man. He carried himself well respected by folks from both parties, Republican and Democrat. Lawyers, defense lawyers, law enforcement, judges, they all appreciated him and respected him. And he ran a very professional office. And then he was my boss when my dad was sick. And so he was very gracious with me through that whole time period. And just a very good, professional, kind-hearted Christian man. Nice. And, a good example to follow as far as what I do now. And then the other gentleman, Doug Arthurs, who's a longtime lawyer here in Gaston County. And Doug, reputationally out in the community, he has a reputation for being just a really tough bulldog lawyer.
Right.
But if you get to know him, outside of that tough exterior, it kind of reminds me of like a Dale Earnhardt, very tough on the outside, the intimidated, somewhat of an intimidating presence in the courtroom. People used to hate receiving a letter with his name on it or an envelope, but working with him, you get to see the interior of the man and a Christian man, a man that loves his wife. Loves his kids and children. He's the one that when I was getting married, or making a decision to propose to Mel, he's the one I talked to about stuff like that. Right. And
that's a big deal.
Financial advice, and then also just being a dad and being a parent. He was a good source of information for that. I remember one thing he told me. And he told me he's from Cherryville too, and so he had Cherryville twang. And he said, Travis, and this was before the birth of my first child, he said, you may think you love your mama, and you may think that you love your wife, but you don't know what love is until you hold that little girl for the first time.
That's right.
Yeah. And he was completely right. And so, I learned how to run a law practice from him. I learned how to be a dad in some ways. how to balance, a career and be a dad and to make your family a priority. And so, and then the last one, so the fifth,
Okay.
My favorite scripture, it's what I have on my wall, and it's Micah 6:8. It's a lot of folks say that's the lawyer's Bible verse, but because it references justice, but it, what does the Lord ask of you, but to do justice, to seek mercy, to walk humbly with your God. And so for me, that verse, I think, can be broken down to those three asks. And, do justice. Most folks have a pretty consistent concept of what justice is, and it's, accountability for what you've done, whether it's breaking the law or in your own personal life.
Right.
We seek a lot of justice in what we do every day at the courthouse. I was just listening to some jail calls of some folks, of some inmates, and before I came over here, and folks that are getting ready to go off to prison.
Wow.
And but at the same time, there's no justice if there's no mercy.
Right.
And
we don't always do that.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, we're very quick to convict people in the court of public opinion or, in our personal lives before we've given them the benefit of the doubt, or at least due process to say their side. But as far as mercy, we're all sinners.
Yeah.
And we've all been given mercy, or at least been offered mercy.
Yes. Right.
And I think it's Christ-like to offer mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's what he asks us to do.
Yep.
And so, and then to walk humbly with your God, I'll be the first person to admit that I don't know everything. And I'm not going to have all the answers. And I'm also going to make the wrong decision every now and then too.
Really? No.
Yeah.
A man admitted that. No, I'm just kidding.
But
we many men who come through here admit that. So if they don't hear it at home, they'll hear it here.
Yeah. So I know Mel's probably going to be watching.
He's going to clip
this will get replayed a lot.
You said you're not always right.
This is it. This is one of those times. I'm going to hear that one a good bit. But no, I like to.
Well, it's hard to admit you're wrong,
It's
no
hard.
matter who you are, but especially a man.
Absolutely.
It is. Ladies that are watching out there, you may not know this, but it is. It's difficult. So, and I struggle with it too. I had to learn that a long time ago. But yes,
and that's the first step of. It's the first step of recovery. It's the first step of, a path to Christ.
Yeah.
And to following Christ is to admit that you're a sinner, and admit that you're wrong. And so I think that's important. It's also important to listen to other folks and their input and their ideas. And I think
do that
there's
really well too,
some humility required.
Yeah, absolutely.
For that.
That's cool. And that comes through. People know that, people see that, and you're genuine, and that makes a difference when you're interacting with people, from what I've seen, including interacting with me. So that's cool. Good deal. All right. See there? Got a little mixture going on there. So now comes the really fun and exciting. Well, it's all been fun, but the fun part. And I just was looking over here a minute ago and realized that I forgot to bring your parting gift.
Oh yeah,
it's downstairs.
So
what I'm going to have to do, because I don't want to destroy the podcast, I'm going to hit that pause button right there.
All right,
and I'm literally going to run down and get it.
Good deal.
We're back. So I'm going to leave that part in there because I think that's kind of weird, because I never forget these. So we have some wonderful parting gifts for our guests. And that first parting gift our wonderful guest gets is a bottle of hand sanitizer. Mr. Bill's and Bill Ward Photography hand sanitizer.
Nice.
And you say, why? And I say, because I have boxes of them downstairs that I bought during COVID. So
this is wonderful.
Listen, these bottles are sitting in Raleigh. They're sitting in Justice's chambers. So there you go.
And they'll be in the district attorney's office come tomorrow at around 8:00.
Yeah, see, they're cool. Go. And you receive an autograph. I'll autograph this before you leave. An autographed Willie Ace, official Willie Ace. Willie Ace. Chicago Cubs baseball card.
Nice.
I will autograph that and number it, because my producer says it's worth money if I number it. I don't think it's worth anything, and you get to choose from our plethora. You didn't know I knew a big word like that, did you? Plethora of superheroes. You cannot have my superhero, who is Iron Man. And you say, why superhero? Well, we say, what was that? Something just fell. We say superhero because 2 reasons. Number 1, they're Legos, superheroes. You have to build them. That's STEM, science, technology, engineering.
Nice.
There's the engineering. And because all the men that come through here are superheroes.
Wonderful.
How about that?
Thank
so
you.
You get to choose from Thor. I think that's Blackhawk. No, yeah, Blackhawk. Vision. Are you familiar with all the Marvel heroes?
So some of them.
Superman, Captain America. What's his name from X-Men?
Wolverine.
Yep, Wolverine. My wife will kill me. She loves Wolverine. The Hulk. And Batman, which is not Marvel. I don't know why he's in there. And Thor.
Yeah, he's DC, I think.
I
Right?
know. Yeah, DC in there. I don't know why he's in there.
But he's actually my choice.
Oh, look at you. You took
He's the crime fighter.
Okay,
So-
Batman, the Dark Knight.
There
Oh,
we
you
go.
like
The Dark Knight.
Huh? Cool.
There we
you
go.
All right, that's let's see. Is that all your party gifts? I think it is. Oh, wait. I got to show you something too that I've shown only our wrestling fans.
Nice.
Next, well, I can't say next because your podcast will be after the event.
Gotcha.
But there's an event coming up. I'm hoping to get this signed.
I think you know.
What do you think, huh?
I think
By
so.
Mark Robinson? You think he'll do it?
I think you would. Who's your favorite wrestler, by the
Probably
way?
forget it. I'm not even a wrestling fan.
Oh, okay.
I know. So Donna is. She grew up watching wrestling. So I never followed it. I've met Ric Flair.
Right.
Went to a thing where this 2 friends of mine sang
Uh-huh.
as part of the act
Yeah.
at some wrestling ceremony, marriage thing
Yeah.
in Charlotte. So I'm in the Coliseum.
Oh, wow.
All this craziness and all this stuff, and in the early or mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And they acted like they were the wedding singers, is what they were, and I got to be behind there. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So here I was, not even being a wrestling fan.
Good deal.
It was interesting though.
I bet.
Yeah, and I don't even remember who was wrestling. I don't remember all those names and
Yeah.
stuff. Why? Who's yours?
So growing up,
This is not your sports story, is it?
so no, it's not my sports story.
He gets to tell.
But
he's
so-
a DA. He can do what he wants.
so growing up, I'll get to the sports story.
No, okay,
But,
it's okay.
but anyways, so growing up, like the Bushwhackers,
Okay.
WWF. I love
yeah.
the Bushwhackers. You know, they were the crazy guys that would
Yeah.
walk down the aisle, strut, march. I loved Hulk Hogan. I was a Hulkamaniac.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
But
I was
everybody
strong,
likes him.
never
anyway.
strong enough to rip my shirt. But,
You have to have the right kind of shirt.
and then in the later years, my brother and I, we kind of liked Stone Cold Steve Austin a little
Okay.
bit, but we were never allowed to get a T-shirt of his,
Right.
of course, for very good reason.
Yeah,
But
right.
but yeah, we.
Okay, well,
So-
cool. Well,
so
there you go.
those are the
Sorry, I
guys,
didn't mean to
but-
bring the wrestling in.
So the sports story.
Okay, here we go. Oh yeah.
So
So now he has to tell his sports story because he's in the Cubs room.
and I got to start with the premise that I believe racing is a sport.
Okay,
So,
I agree.
Yeah. So
I mean, multi-million-dollar baby sport. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
changed. It's changed.
so
But it's a grueling to be in that thing.
so I love racing,
Yeah.
and I don't like it quite as much as I used to. I used to be rabid when the Earnhardts were racing. But my dad, growing up, he had a go-kart, and on Sunday afternoons he'd get with some of his buddies, and they had a dirt track
Oh,
there in
cool.
Cherville, and they would race go-karts. And so Dad would bring it home, and we'd race it around the house. And
Yeah.
so I was 6 years old. My
Oh,
daughter
boy.
is 6 years old right now. There's no way
Never let
I would let Maddie drive a race car or go-kart
Go-kart, yeah.
right now, especially one without a roll cage
Yeah, I
and,
know, right?
and seatbelt and all
Yeah.
this sort of thing. And so, but you know, it was a different time. It was
Sure.
the 90s,
Oh yeah,
right?
we did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And so one Saturday, my mom's out, I think, at a wedding or something like that. And so my brother and I are at home along with Dad, and he's got a couple buddies over. And, you know, I take the go-kart for a couple laps around the house,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh boy.
and he's in the backyard. He gets me in there, gets me situated, and I go around the front. Well, I'm racing, you know, I'm trying to set, you know, a record, you know, fastest lap, be on pole position.
Yeah.
And, you know, I almost hit a tree in the front yard.
Oh boy.
And then I made it up, ran away from
That
the
was the
truck.
exciting part.
Yeah.
probably, right?
Well, no, the most,
No.
no, I managed to hit the house.
Ooh.
Big brick house, and I couldn't miss it. So I ran into the side of the house. I was in a body cast for about 6 weeks.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I cut my eye a couple places. I've still got small little scars here on my eye.
No way.
But no, that was kind of my that was my race.
Thought you were the NASCAR driver, huh?
So, my life could have been very different, but for that day in September. I think it was September in 1990.
Wow.
And
the end of your
racing career. So all these guys that have won championships, Jimmy Johnson's and everybody else, but for a Saturday afternoon in September,
that's great.
Those could have been my championships.
Well, all right. Well, we're glad you are who you are and where you are instead. So, who knows? We might have Jimmy Johnson for our DA instead.
Hey, yeah, that's true. So
that might not be a good thing. Right? So anyway, cool. Oh, wait, I did forget one more thing. I promised Jerry Whitlock we'd get his. Wait, I got to do it near the microphone, right?
I like to think of all kinds of helpers in our world.
I don't know why he gave me Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
And I promised he would make an appearance on the podcast. It has nothing to do with the Greater Purpose podcast. Well, I don't know. He served a greater purpose.
Shout out to Jerry Whitlock.
Jerry, yep, exactly.
Good man.
So yeah, so anyway, so that's good. Well, that's great. Listen, we appreciate you joining us here on the Greater Purpose podcast. We appreciate our guest, DA Travis.
Thank you.
And we want to encourage you to subscribe, like, share, tell everybody about it. Make sure this thing goes viral because he's in trouble because his wife knows that he said he doesn't know everything. So anyway.
DA admits that he's wrong.
That's right. Anyway, so Travis Page, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
you guys for being here. God bless and have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.